Welcome to the TLW podcast. Jonathan Pixley here with my partner, Dr. Sean Owens. Sean, welcome back.
Glad to be here with you, Coach.
We are very, very excited about our guest today. One of my, not just favorite players, but one of my favorite people on the planet, Skylar Mays, here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Skylar, welcome.
Good to see you guys. Appreciate y'all having me.
No doubt. So that I don't run the risk of doing what I might do from time to time, which is talk a little too much. Okay, I'm going to give as brief of a background as I can. But then, Skylar, ultimately, what we want you to do to start things off is kind of tell your story, right? How you went from, a younger player here in Baton Rouge to where you are today, and all of the things that kind of went along with that. And we'll do a deeper dive into most of those things. But Skylar is a player that I have coached and trained for years and years now. So to say that we have a close relationship is probably an understatement. But regardless of that, his story is one that people need to hear, and that people who have gone through struggles and then succeeded and then gone through struggles, you need to hear it, because there's a mindset that he has mastered and is continuing to perfect that has allowed him to do what he does. Again, grew up here in Baton Rouge, went to high school here in Baton Rouge, and then has played 4 years in the NBA, and will be playing this year overseas, but we'll be back in the NBA shortly as well. So if you don't mind, Skylar, take us through timeline, and we'll just start at U-High, okay, at University Laboratory School, where you had a stellar career, won 2 state championships, and then take us through Finley Prep, LSU, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, it's funny you asked to go back into my story, because I'm hooping, so I'm kind of I'm in the middle of it right now, and the story's still going.
For sure.
But as far as U-High, I got to U-High in 6th grade. I'd been playing basketball, obviously, in Baton Rouge before that, but U-High was where I was really starting to get into organized basketball, coming into my own as a player. Just learning, just playing, not having any certain ties to the game as far as stats or anything, just going out there and playing with a sense of purity and enjoying playing. So all the way through high school, obviously, we had really good teams. We're at the top of, the metro area in most local rankings, and, just a lot of winning. Was blessed to play with a bunch of good guys. Shout out to, Jalen Johnson, DJ White, Maxwell Starwood, obviously my late brother, Wade Sims. But yeah, I have a lot of great memories from playing basketball out here.
I want to tell a quick story, because when they were in the 8th grade, that whole group that he just named, when they were in the 8th grade, they started on the varsity team. And I think y'all started 4 8th graders that year and maybe one older guy. And I remember we played you guys 2 or 3 times that year. We beat you when we played you when I was at Dunham that year. And I remember in the playoffs, after we beat you and it was a close game, I remember looking at my assistant coaches and I go, well, that'll be that for a while.
I'm glad we snuck something in.
That'll be the last time that happens for a little while. So you go from U-High, where, again, you win a couple state titles, and you decide to transition to Finley Prep. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to push myself. I felt like I had a lot of success in Baton Rouge, but, because Pix coached me over in AAU through high school. So, we would see the competition that was, playing against teams from Cali, playing teams from Texas, all over. So I felt like I was having a lot of success here, and I just wanted to, continue that stride going into the school season, because there was obviously a drop-off. And, Finley seemed like a great opportunity for me to, play against high-level D1 guys day in, day out, and compete and earn, whatever I was going to get out of it. And I felt like it was going to be a great transition for me coming back to LSU, because I was committed to LSU before I even got out to Vegas. So, it ended up being hard for me, being away from home for the first time, knowing, I come from a huge family, 7 siblings, both of my parents, and we're really tight, really close in age. So that part for me was something that, helped me further in my career, even though I was coming back for college, but also prepared me for coming into LSU being ready to start as a freshman.
So you get to LSU, you start as a freshman. You start as a true point guard, which I will to this day say you're the best high school passer I've ever seen in my life, nationally. Okay, I thought Randy Livingston was the best high school passer I'd ever seen until I saw you play. And then over time, your role changes where they need you to score more. They need you to be to kind of carry the offense. Talk about that transition a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, my sophomore year was my most difficult year because it was my first time really playing off the ball. Like you said, I was a pure point guard, almost to the point where I didn't even look at the goal to shoot, and really had to change my game once, because Johnny brought me in, and obviously we had a rough first year, and Coach Wade comes in my sophomore year and brings in Tremont, which, was
Right.
a lot of fun, and very capable of playing the point guard, as his stats showed. But with that being said, it was a transition for me. I had to learn how to play off the ball, and that ended up being a blessing going into how you see the game is now, positionless basketball, being able to play multiple positions, the value of versatility. However, going into my sophomore year, I wasn't ready for that. So we still had success my sophomore year, but that was the most difficult year for me, learning how to play out of the corner.
And then you get to your senior year, and you're a full-fledged combination guard at this point, who's scoring 17, 18, 20 a game regularly now, in line potentially to be the SEC Player of the Year at that point. And then COVID hits, right? Talk about that when the news hit, and it was like, oh wow, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, my junior year, to take a little bit back, was our best team. Nasri, Tremont Waters, me, Javante, Emmett Williams, Darius Days. We had real pros, 6 real pros. And going into my senior year, the ball was a little more in my hands. I was going on to 3 years into Coach Wade's system, getting an idea of what he wanted from me, and being given a true leadership role, which I was always ready for. And we were in stride. I think we finished that year 3rd in conference. Obviously, I was playing well, made first team, and we had shaky points. We weren't as good as my junior year team, but we were primed for what I thought was a good run. And obviously, like you said, COVID hitting put everything to a halt. So, we're going in. I'll never forget us watching, whatever the 11 and 14 game, and I see a guy in a full bodysuit watching the game, and I still have that picture in my phone, and I'm just laughing at him like, man, what's going on? And then, the next morning, Coach Wade calls us in and says, hey, the SEC tournament's canceled. And then, maybe 4 hours later, the whole season is canceled. So that's kind of like my runway going into the, my next opportunity, which, ultimately ended up being the NBA. And, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth in some ways, but, I feel like everyone that year missed that opportunity. So maybe we have a crazy run and make it to the Final Four. Maybe we lose in the first round. But, I think I would have liked to see how it would have played out.
That week when all that was going down, I remember this. We actually talked about this on a previous podcast. I'm sitting in my kitchen, and I'm on the phone with the coach from the rival high school, Chris Beckman at Episcopal, who we were fixing to play them in the state finals. And I said, Chris, we got to get this game in. We got to get it in. They're going to shut it down. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And I said, Chris, I'm watching SEC tournament shut down, ACC tournament shut. Like, it's literally happening on TV as I'm doing it. and we did get the game in. But I remember
You
where
got
I was.
it in?
Yeah, we got it in.
Wow.
We had to play it at Dunham because we were the 1 seed, and we played in front of nobody.
Right.
It was a scrimmage. Yeah, it was crazy. So
Crazy.
Let me ask you this, Skylar. So this is kind of a twofold question. Professional basketball, is that something that was always on your radar? Is that something that you knew from a young age?
100%. Since I was
Yeah.
6.
Okay,
You know,
I
I've
love
always
it.
dreamed of making it.
Yeah.
Doing more than making it. But, you know, good student.
Yeah.
Probably could have done it another way, but basketball is my passion.
So
Basketball's what I love to do.
So that's been the passion. Was there ever a specific point in time where you realized not only is this a passion that something I want to do, but there's a reality like, okay, this is something that like I legit can become a professional in this? Or did you always have that confidence all along?
I mean, I've never stepped on it. I've never stepped on a court and been like, man, I don't belong here.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys in the NBA, these are guys I grew up with. Like I've seen these guys my whole life. You know, it's a fraternity in that way. You know, we're at all the AAU tournaments and yeah. So I've always felt like I was good enough.
The confidence is always
now,
there. Yeah.
Now, but the funny thing about not just basketball, sports in general, things got to work out. Things have to align for you.
Yeah.
You need luck for sure. You need good people in your corner, good people looking out for you, and it takes a process to be a pro.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So I remember when we first started training and COVID was in full swing. And we were, you reached out because basically you couldn't get to Chicago to go with your agents to train at that point. And you're like, hey coach, I can't get out of here. Can you help me until I get out of here? That lasted for 8 months. And we're sneaking into our gym 5:30 in the morning before anybody knows we're in it because we're not supposed to be in there, right? Yeah. And I remember one of the first questions I asked you, I said, look, before we crank any of this up, I need to know something because, you mentioned being a good student. You were a phenomenal student, okay? So you most certainly could go be a doctor if you wanted to. You could be anything that you decided that you wanted to be. But I asked you, I said, before we start this, where does becoming a doctor fall in your mind with this? And I don't even think I finished the question before you said, Coach, if I become a doctor anytime soon, then that means I've failed at this and that's not going to happen. And that's when I knew, okay, not that I didn't know already, right? But like, this is, no matter what happens, this is what we're doing.
We're all in on this. Yeah.
We're doing, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, when you were asking me, I'm like, why is he asking me this? I mean, I love
that. Wasn't the first time he questioned why I said something. Yeah.
I think Pix knows, if anyone knows, I love to hoop. Like we could talk basketball 12 hours, So, I mean, I've always taken pride in the work, like the things that people don't see, getting up every day. Obviously, me and Pix weren't the only ones in there. Lang was in there, and so having a guy with NBA experience who shot the ball way better than me, someone who could push me every day while I'm going through these dog days of, man, when is the draft? When is things gonna go my way? What are teams saying about me? Like, how do I stay focused? How do I, I'm about to be a rookie. What am I getting into? Like, this is a new style of basketball. All these questions that are me being an overthinker anyway, on top of walking into this new situation. It was a lot, COVID.
He can relate to it.
The overthinker thing, man. You just struck a chord with me, brother. Yeah.
I'm one of the worst, but basketball, especially being a pro now, going into my 6th year, it's taught me, it's forced me to think less and to kind of just go. But at that time, I was very young. Coach saw me kick a lot of chairs. Coach saw me cry a lot, going through a lot, trying to figure out how I make the most of this situation. How do I get the best out of each day before I get ready to whatever team is going to draft me, if I get drafted,
8 months. It's unfathomable now when you think about it. And you had guys, you mentioned Langston Galloway, who at that point had played in the NBA 7 or 8 years and was a vet. Marcus Thornton was thinking about coming back, and he had played in the league for 8 years. We had guys in there who had been there, done that with you, so that did help. But it didn't replace playing.
For sure.
Right? It didn't replace playing. And so when we talk about a timeline, we talk about 8 months where, we're in the gym once, maybe twice a day. I wish I would have counted the workouts, the number of workouts, because it's in the hundreds for sure at that point, like from a standpoint of just that time period. But then we go into the combine, which for those of you who don't know, the combine at that point, the combine is where all of the rookies, the potential rookies and potential draft picks go to do their measurements for vertical leap and for movement and for shooting and for all of the things that are going to go into how they're evaluated by NBA teams. Well, typically they all show up in one place and they're evaluated by all the coaches who are all in the gym at the same time. Well, nobody could be in a gym together now, so they had to do a virtual combine. So we show up at the New Orleans Pelicans practice facility, and there's basically this machine that is videoing his workout and then keeping track of numbers at the same time. And so New Orleans was one of the teams, honestly, that we hoped was going to draft you because of their situation. You ended up getting drafted by the Atlanta Hawks in the second round. But I'll never forget being in that gym. And it's me and him and like 3 or 4 other people. That's it. We had to script his workout. We had to script it. Like, this is what there
so
were some things.
They didn't have anything specific for you to set up to.
No, they did for a handful of drills.
Okay.
But then there was one segment where we were allowed to do whatever we wanted to do. So obviously we wanted to show his strengths, right? So we're doing some amazing stuff. I think you shot it. Your shooting percentages and numbers were the second best of the entire draft that year. And we attribute that to the work that you put in over the course of the 8 months. So it's like, I'm not getting to play, but look what I can do now, right? Talk about that process going into that, because a big thing for us at TLW, and I'll shut up, is mindset. And so you not getting to go through the norm of all that, but making the most of it anyhow. Talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's a bet on yourself moment. Obviously, again, it's something that everybody in that 2020 draft had to go through. So me being from Baton Rouge, we went to New Orleans because every player that was invited to the combine that year, they had to go to the nearest NBA city. Now, shooting drills, every player, Steph has bad shooting days. So me and Pix drove up there together, and I'm riding up there, and I'm like, man, I gotta shoot a good today. I've been shooting, I've gotten a lot better over these last 8 months, but man, if I have a bad shooting day today, then, I wonder what they're gonna think of me. So luckily I had a good day. But the difference in that and how the draft combine normally is, you get to go from team to team, and I might get to work out for Atlanta, then fly from there to Brooklyn, then fly from there to Charlotte, and get, 18 to 20 workouts in, so I can, not only compete against other guys and, compete against other guys in my draft class and, work my way up from wherever I was stationed, but also each team will be able to get a little bit more of a deeper dive and a deeper look into, what I can bring to the table. So when you've got one shot to, or 1 30-minute workout, however long we went, 45-minute workout, and that's all they get to take from that, it makes it tough. And I say that saying that everyone in my class went through it. So, but I'm rambling. What was the question about
Well, talk about the mindset, because you remember, like, for example, when we scripted that workout, we practiced the workout time after time after time, like the incredible attention to detail. I remember you going, yeah, coach, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Let's change to this. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do this. At that age, knowing this is what I want to be presented like. What was the mindset behind having to do something different than previous classes had done, but still figuring it out? Yeah, I mean,
part of it is that, but part of it is kind of like, hey, I know my strengths. I mean, I know I'm new to this NBA style, but I think I got a pretty good idea at 22 at the time, what I do well, and just wanting to show that in a limited amount of time. But, I would say more so what I remember is the anxiety of wanting to have a good day and wanting to, um, and it's something that, if you're an athlete, you have to fight that every day, because you're being evaluated constantly, whether you're a rookie or whether you're in your 8th year, 10th year. Um, so, building up a mental toughness to deal with things like that and knowing that you have to step up to whatever opportunity, despite how it looks, it's something that I've grown accustomed to.
Now, I would imagine growing accustomed to that has helped you with some of the challenges that you face right now. We were talking before we got started, and what life is like playing overseas and
Hmm.
spending small bits of time in different communities and the ultimate goal of the plan of getting back over here. But knowing that you're in a language speaking country that you don't speak the native language, knowing that you're playing with teammates that you can't really converse with completely. As you've gone through those times, do you find it getting easier to maintain that positive mindset, maintaining that ability to avoid the negativity, or is that something that you struggle with, staving off the negativity? Is that
Yeah, I don't think I've got it all the way figured out. But I've grown better at just taking things in stride.
hmm
As far as being overseas and whether it leads to me coming back here, me having an opportunity for whatever, whether I'm overseas, that's I'm letting God do His work.
I love that.
So there's a reason I'm going to be on the team that I'm going to be with,
hmm
and I've really had to through all the adversity that I've faced, um, being a pro, um, I've really had to, let go of the wheel, which is something that I wasn't great at in college or in high school or, my earlier years. And, um, just trying to make the most of this year and being where my feet are. I think that's something that's going to be a constant work in progress. And, I can't worry about what job I'll have next. I have to worry about being the best player I can be for Bucanos, the team that I'll be with, and keeping it that simple.
I think that's significant. We talk about one of the things that we dial in with TLW is growth mindsets and maintain that positive mentality and
Hmm.
having the ability to do that with what you've gone through. I would imagine there's a lot of politics associated with how things go in the league,
Hmm.
and seeing individuals that may not have put the work in that you've put in, and not focusing on that and focusing on the fact that the Lord has you in a specific season right now for a reason. That's huge. That's
For
huge.
sure, because you could look at it that way, but everyone has a story, man.
Yeah.
There are some people, some teammates that I've had that are going through tougher things off the court,
hmm
and they may be having the blessings that they're hoping for on the court, um, but that doesn't mean that they're not struggling.
Yeah.
You know, uh, things going the way they have for me in basketball. I've had good moments in the NBA. I've had good moments overseas. I haven't been overseas very long, but um, I'm blessed with a great circle, and I don't take that for granted. And there are drop offs in some areas of my life that I wish that I could shore up, but that's part of it. That goes into that growth mindset. Things can grow. Things can get better. Um, so taking that mindset is like you said, consistent work in progress, and going into the day, how it goes is what's key for me.
Have you found it challenging, given your profession, maintaining relationships with your core group of people, family, girlfriend? Is that something that's difficult for you?
100%,
Yeah.
especially when especially since I've been overseas, but being a professional athlete, you've got to sacrifice a lot of your time, and it's not a 9 to 5. You've got guys who have a bad game and they come back to their phone and have death threats or you. So it's consistent, pressure um, from 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 a sport. So, and your schedule isn't determined by you. You might have 14 days in a row of work, whether it's a game, practice, travel day. So you are missing out on that time. And the trade-off is the money's a little bit better, but um, there are things that you have to sacrifice being a professional athlete for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the importance of developing productive habits. And so you as a professional athlete, obviously, in order to play the years that you played in the NBA, just get to that point to begin with, okay? And then stick and do what you've done to this point, which, again, you're correct. Your story is not even close to being done written, but just to get here, talk about some of the things that you do, if you're willing to, daily, right? That I know I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this to make sure that my body is right, my mind is right, everything is all the controllables are controlled at this point as far as your professionalism.
Well, I need to pray first thing. My MO is God, family, who, and there have been moments in my career where I kind of had the order mixed, but coming back into making sure that's how I start my day. Getting my one-on-one with God is super important. As far as on the court, working on things that I know will translate to success for me in the game. It changes because I've been on so many different teams, so many different situations. But making sure I'm a versatile player, dribble, pass, shoot. We do a lot of that stuff, making it, relatively simple. Obviously, the game's changed a lot, so trying to be ahead of the curve, and trying to keep it creative, keep it fun, and now I'm in the summer, so just really trying to hang out with family, continuing to grow as a son, grow as a brother, and grow my relationships with my friends.
Game day routine. Do you have specific things that you're doing at times leading up to a game?
Depending on if we have shoot around, which we normally do. Let's say the game's at 7, we have shoot around at 11. After shoot around, I'm definitely going to take a nap, shower when I wake up, and once we get to the gym or whatever, I'll stretch, go through my pregame routine, and then I get a light lift in and read my Bible, and 30 minutes on the clock. I'm kind of doing a little bit of meditating, just kind of focusing in and getting ready to go. It's changed over time because like I said, I was an overthinker, and now I'm to the point where I'm just kind of as long as I get my prayer, I'm pretty much good to go, and I'm loose, obviously.
What about superstitions? You got it?
Nah.
Okay, I know, man.
That's one more thing I'd have to think about.
I'm gonna follow your lead on that.
Last question for you. You only get to pick one piece of advice to give 15-year-old Skylar Mays.
15-year-old Skylar.
15-year-old Skylar Mays. Can be dealing with the game, can be personal, whatever it is. What's the one piece of advice you would give 15-year-old Skylar Mays if you could look at him right now?
Great question. I would say, I don't want to say just go, because I feel like I've been stressing that this whole interview, but fight for your happiness, man. And at that, how I saw the game when I was 15 versus how I see the game now, really understanding it as a tool and really understanding the things I was told, like, man, it's 80% mental, and you're just kind of like, man, I'm playing ball, man. We're talking about 80% mental. But the journey that basketball has taken me on up to this point has tested my happiness, and I think most athletes would say the same in their respective sports. So fighting for that and making sure that that's the core of the reason you play the sport you play, it's vital for you to continue, and it's vital for you to have success. People say you look good, you feel good, you play good. Emphasizing that feeling good about where you're going with it, feeling good about the person you're becoming through the game, and if the game is helping you to become the person that you're happy about becoming, I think it's, the number one thing I would probably tell 15-year-old Sky.
How old are you?
27.
You 55-year-olds need to listen to what he just said, for sure. Thank you for being here.
My God.
We really appreciate it.
I already know.
He's very special to me, very
Oh, man.
special to a lot of
Appreciate
people. And we really appreciate his time. As always, we appreciate you joining us on the TLW podcast, and we will see you next time. Go get it.